Hey guys! Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a serious topic, but one that is important for us to better understand the world we live in. What would the Third World War be like and the economic impacts it would have on society? Let's get started. The threat of a new global war. In recent years, we have seen an increase in tensions between world powers and conflicts in different regions. Although we are in a period of relative peace, the possibility of a third world war is still a concern for many. The economic effects of war. A global war would have significant impacts on the global economy and people's lives. Besides the loss of human lives and physical damage caused by the conflicts, war would also bring devastating financial consequences, increase in taxes and reduced purchasing power. One of the main consequences of war would be an increase in taxes. During times of conflict, governments need to raise extra resources to finance military operations and post-war reconstruction. This means that the population would have to bear an even higher tax burden. The increase in taxes would have a direct impact on people's purchasing power. With less money available, families would have to reduce their spending and rethink their priorities. This would directly affect various sectors of the economy, such as trade, tourism, and industry. Unemployment and inflation. Another effect of war would be an increase in unemployment. With the disruption of economic activities and the destruction of infrastructure, many businesses would be forced to close, leaving millions of people without jobs. Additionally, inflation would also be a problem. With resource scarcity and rising production costs, the prices of goods and services would increase dramatically. This would further affect people's purchasing power, making life even more difficult. During the war, governments would allocate a significant portion of resources to investments in weapons and military equipment. This means that essential areas such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure would suffer significant cuts. The lack of investment in these areas would have long-term negative consequences. The quality of healthcare services would be compromised, education would suffer from a lack of resources, and the country's infrastructure would be neglected. Investing in armaments and reducing essential areas. During the war, governments would allocate a significant portion of resources to investments in weapons and military equipment. This means that essential areas such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure would suffer significant cuts. The lack of investment in these areas would have long-term negative consequences. The quality of healthcare services would be compromised, education would suffer from a lack of resources, and the country's infrastructure would be neglected. Increase in public debt. During periods of war, governments usually increase their public debt to finance military operations and cover extra expenses. This is because the cost of war is extremely high, involving expenses for armaments, soldier training, logistics, and more. As a result, the country's public debt would increase significantly. And to repay this debt, governments would need to resort to measures such as further increasing taxes, reducing social spending, and even seeking external loans, which could compromise the country's sovereignty and economic autonomy. Global economic instability. The Third World War would have an impact not only on the economy of the country directly involved in the conflict but also on the entire global financial system. The uncertainty caused by war would lead to instability in financial markets, with volatility in exchange rates, commodity prices, and stock markets. This global economic instability would negatively affect the ability to trade and invest between countries. Trade relations would be harmed, which could lead to a global recession and a decline in economic growth. Population displacement and humanitarian crisis. In addition to the economic effects, war would also cause mass displacement of populations, with millions of people fleeing conflict areas in search of safety. This would result in a humanitarian crisis, with the need to shelter, feed, and care for these displaced people. Governments would have to allocate additional resources to deal with the humanitarian crisis, which could further increase the tax burden. Additionally, the infrastructure and public services in the refuge areas would be overwhelmed, negatively impacting the quality of life of local communities. Hope and the importance of peace. While it is important to discuss the potential impacts of the Third World War, it is essential to remember that peace is always the desirable path. We must work together to promote peace, international cooperation, and dialogue in order to avoid destructive conflicts that could lead to these negative consequences. In conclusion, the Third World War would have devastating effects on the global economy and society as a whole. Increased taxes, reduced purchasing power, unemployment, inflation, increased public debt, and economic instability would be just some of the negative consequences. It is crucial that we continue to promote peace, diplomacy, and peaceful conflict resolution. In doing so, we can ensure a better future for everyone and avoid the terrible impacts that a global war would bring. So, what do you guys think about this topic? Leave your opinions and suggestions for future videos in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Thanks, guys, and see you next